All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Friedman-Smith.
And I'm Gail Bell.
And welcome to the Real Life Parenting Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Beaner's Fun Cuts for Kids. Parenting is hard. Haircuts shouldn't be. Visit beanersfuncuts.com for a location near you. And today we're speaking with internationally known social worker, Gary Dierenfeld. We recently watched a video of Gary talking about parents reinforcing connection with their kids, and we really wanted to continue the conversation. So we're really glad to be connecting here with you, Gary, and looking forward to speaking with you.
Thanks, folks. I'm so happy to be here with you. And, you know, we're both recording this for our respective audiences. Mm-hmm. So for my audience, can you just give them a sense of who you folks are and what you do and where in the world you are?
Wow, I wish it was more exciting, but Gail and I are from Parenting Power, and we are in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We started our company 17 years ago, and we believe that there's more than one right way to parent. So we work with parents and help them to find strategies, whether they're parents of infants all the way up to teens, strategies in all sorts of areas of parenting, and just help them to feel more confident, capable, and calm.
Great. Okay, thanks. I'm in your hands. You asked me to interview. How can I help you?
Well, Gary, why don't you just start by telling us a bit about your work with parents?
Well, first of all, look at the gray hair. I'm 63 years of age. I've been working with parents for about 37 years in all kinds of capacities. But at the end of the day, it's, as I say, we all want awesome kids. And so in all of my work with parents, it's directed towards having awesome kids. So that can be in counseling, that could be through parent education, that can be through parenting workshops, that can be through helping separated parents sort out the care of their children between them. Mm-hmm. So I offer, you know, a slew of services, yoursocialworker.com, for people, for parents.
Sounds so valuable. And we've had a chance to watch a lot of your videos and your social media, and I'm always struck by the very usable quality of what you have to say. It's just very matter of fact. So that's why we really wanted to speak with you today. Can you share your thoughts a little bit about the decreasing connection that is happening in families?
Yeah, and I want to frame it like this. Quite often when people talk about parents, there's a lot of blame and shame. Mm-hmm. Who's at fault? Who's doing something wrong? And that doesn't serve anyone.
No.
I prefer to give a bit of a history lesson. People don't understand that there is a parenting mess these days. There is a mess with our kids these days. There is a disconnect. Don't get me wrong. But if we don't understand how we got here, you don't get how to change it. So if we look back, look, I was born in 56. That's 1956. If we look back over the years, family life was structured very differently. There was always a parent in the home. With each successive decade, there's less and less parental availability. And not because we're bad parents, but because of changes to social policy, divorce policy, economics, technology. Because of all these different political changes, we are less available to our kids. So you know, we now have far less intact two-parent families available to parent. And even if it is an intact two-parent family, how many of us out there have to work one or two jobs, both parents, just to make ends meet? I mean, that was unheard of 20 years ago. So because of that, we're less available. Add technology, and, you know, child is sequestered in their room, but then when we're together, one is like this and the other is like that. And you know, we used to call it the BlackBerry prayer. You'd be looking down to your BlackBerry, you know, thumbing away your emails. We're just disconnected. And we don't realize that has a huge impact on children's well-being. And so if I'm not connected to you as my parent, that means the child next to me is my predominant influence. And when I don't know how to do something and I'm 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, I'm going to a kid who also doesn't know how to do something. We're figuring it out on the fly. And let me tell you, it's not with the maturity that we possess, so we're going to get into trouble. Then the parent shows up, and I call it negative activation. What are you doing? Negatively activated, right? Kid did something wrong. But the kid looks up and says, I don't recognize your authority. Who are you? Because we don't have the same relationship, the result of not being available to one another. This creates a whole mess of problems for kids and parents today.
Yes, and we know at Parenting Power, so we're right with you, Gary, we say there is no room for pain, shame, or blame. And we also know that the research that just has come out, technoference has
that's
proven.
a good term. I haven't heard that term.
Yes, it is a real live world now, technoference.
I'm going to write that down.
Okay, write it down. So the parents' use of a screen is increasing negative behavior in their children simply because the kids are trying to get their parents' attention, eye to eye.
Kid goes wah, and it was always the parent's job to figure out, why are you going wah?
Yeah.
And I said, well, the first thing we flip the child over and we sniff their diaper, right? I call it the sniff test. It's not a poopy diaper. Then we try to feed the child. I don't care if it's breast or bottle. I just care the kids get fed. But the kids still, wah, wah. Then we pick them up and they go, right? They needed cuddling, attention, stimulation. But now we have this device. Where's mine? Mine's here. We have this. Kid goes wah, and I go, just a minute. Wah, wah, just a minute, just a minute. Wah, 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 can't you see it? Right? What does that do, that disconnect? And we can inadvertently wind up being the source of distress. So our children aren't as connected to us. And then we wonder, why don't they respect us? Why are they not listening? We have to put away these devices. No, I love this word. I'm going to play it to death. Seriously, it's great. Thank you. No technoference. And that can go a long way. In my parenting workshops, I say that, after I've explained everything, because it has to make sense, you have to understand how we got here. One of the solutions, you come home from work, some people are coming home at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, some are, at 11 o'clock at night, some 3 in the afternoon. But when you come home, shout into the house, I'm home and I've turned off my phone. What's that about? Then I tell, hunt your kid down. Hunt them, look for them in the home, wherever the heck they are. And when you see them, grab their face and give them a kiss. And then leave. That kid is going to be so discombobulated. That's how I say it. Some people say discombobulated. But they're going to have, who was that? Is my parent nuts? But then they're going to say, wait a minute. They love me. I'm connected. And then that's going to say, I want to get me more of that. And now I come out of my room because I'm going to look for more of that. And so when the child comes out, instead of me from the front door, come down here, get down here, negative activation. You didn't pick up your clothes. You didn't, right? Now the kid comes out of their room and I get to say, I love you. Thank you for coming out of your room. Come here. Give you a kiss. Oh, do me a favor. I don't know if you remembered, you left your stuff at the front. Thanks, sweetheart. What a different experience. This is what we need to do. This is what we bring to parenting. I go off on all these tangents. I hope it's helpful.
It's so helpful. And I wanted you to talk about the Tim Hortons thing that you had said, but this is exactly this. It's the same thing, which is really, Gail and I always say at Parenting Power, kids spell love Time. They need
T-I-M-E, time.
you. They need to feel you. They need to know that you're there. And you have really articulated that in your message. Because why would somebody want to come out of their room if all you're going to do is...
No kidding. I wouldn't. Right? So well, this Tim Horton thing. I get so many calls from parents. Meet with my teenager. Meet with my do you provide counseling to teenagers? And the way it's framed, There's an expectation that I've got a bigger finger to wag at the kid, right? And that if I wag my bigger finger, miraculously, whatever the issues with that teen are, they're gone. So I've taken to telling parents before I meet, first of all, I never meet with a kid under that circumstance. I always meet with parents first. But I explained to the parents prior to coming to see me, do me a favor. The next time you're in the car with the kid, go out of your way and stop at a donut store. We're Canadian, I say Tim Hortons. Could be Coffee Time. I'm not trying to promote any particular brand here. But say to your kid, come on in, let's go get a coffee, a hot chocolate, a donut. And they're going to like, really? So, yeah, let's do that. And you go in and you simply spend a few minutes with your kid over a coffee or a donut. By the time you've done that over the course of a couple of weeks, a couple of times, maybe the problem has resolved itself. Maybe that kid needed that connection with you. Now, I've posted this to my Facebook page. Most people have loved it. I've had some people say, what, you don't believe in counseling? Of course I believe in counseling. Oh my goodness, it isn't about dissing counseling. I'm a counselor, for crying out loud. It's about this may be helpful such that you don't need the counseling.
Yeah.
Come on. And so when I posted that video, it had over 1 million views.
Wow.
I know, right? Wow. Because people have forgotten to just connect. And so we remind them and they go, that's rocket science. It's not to you and me, I get it. But when we've been so removed from our kids and thinking about the relationship, it is like a dose of smelling salts to think, oh my goodness, I can do that. I can try that. And for many parents, that in and of itself is sufficient to lower the temperature enough to reconnect, have the conversations you need to have, and move forward.
Yes, well, that really leads us into our next question for you, because it seems like in today's world, there's a belief, or maybe not even a belief, but a perception by some parents that if they spend money on their kids, it's the same value as spending time. And that money may be on activities, because we hear all the time from many clients, we're so busy and we're always with our kids. We're driving here, we're driving there, we're at this activity. All these activities cost a lot of money. It makes parents feel like they're really busy, but they're not really spending that connection time necessarily, the eye-to-eye sitting, just talking. Can you comment on that?
There's actually a lot to unpack with that. So let's differentiate between being immersed in many activities and spending money.
On stuff, so to speak.
On stuff.
Yes.
So as for the many activities, firstly, many parents worry that it's a very dangerous world. And they fear their kids having free time in a dangerous world playing outside, particularly because many of us, we're not at home to provide some degree of supervision or a place of safety if the child gets into trouble. So in lieu of that, all these kids are in activities. One of the messages I give to parents is, whether they believe it or not, we are in a safer time in history than we've ever been in our communities. Violent crimes are down, dangerous things are down. The pedophile that you're worried about hiding around the corner in a trench coat, no. I'm not going to say that these things don't ever happen, but they don't happen at the rates that parents are fearful about. And couple of reasons we're fearful. 24/7 news cycle, where, as a producer says to me, Gareth, it bleeds, it leads. So that's what you see on the, that's right. It gives this impression that the world is in our neighborhoods is far more dangerous when it's not. And so the other issue, again, is we're not there to provide any degree of supervision because we're busy, because we need to have 2 and 3 jobs just to survive economically. So having our kids in supervised activities is a way to mitigate that. As for spending money, when we're not available, and again, this isn't because we're bad parents. We do need a roof over our head. We need food in the fridge. We need clothes on our back. But our lack of availability drives parental guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And so to assuage our parental guilt, we inadvertently look to buy our way out of it. I want my child to be happy. I'm not there. This will make my child happy. That's the equation. The child's experience of it, though, is parent isn't there. I get things. I'm spoiled. I like that. Now, about this happiness thing, I tell parents, don't strive to have happy kids. And they're like, what? I said, strive to have responsible kids. First of all, I can't give you a cup of happiness. This is my tea. I'm a big tea drinker. I can't give you a cup of happiness. Happiness is an outcome feeling. I can teach you to be responsible. So if you get things done, if you get, see, you like your tea or coffee too.
Mm-hmm.
If we get things done, if you get your homework done, if you are responsible in your relationships, then you're not getting into trouble. Then you're happy. That's the equation. So strive for responsibility. Happiness is an outcome of our children learning to be responsible. They get stuff done. Yeah.
And we all feel good when we have a purpose.
Well, it's true. So don't go around assuaging guilt through giving things, and don't throw your kids into all sorts of activities. Go to Tim Hortons with them and say, oh, by the way, how's that homework coming? Do you need any help with it?
Yeah.
Right?
Or go for a walk.
Or go for a walk. Yeah, it
present.
doesn't have to be Tim Hortons. Go for a walk around the block. Hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? But have that one-on-one directly with your child to do that. And as they're getting their homework done, as you're supporting them in those activities, then look at you. Man, are you ever taking care of business? That's awesome. Now I'm happy.
Yeah. And you know, there's also that element from a parenting perspective that especially in those teen years, although what you're saying is for all ages, I appreciate that,
Yeah.
But especially in those teen years, it gets to a point where it's almost easier to leave them in their room, because then we don't just have to have that grunting interaction that we maybe don't want to have. And we need to play the role of adult here. This is what Gail and I talk about a lot, is we need to play the role of adult here and call that child down to dinner. I love what you said, go and give them a kiss and walk away. But sometimes it's easier. Yeah, I don't want to eat with my kid because they're just going to be grumpy. No.
Negative activation. They're going to negatively activate us.
Exactly. Create opportunities daily, whether it's meal times or walking or whatever it is, so that you can make that connection. Because once we make the effort and we're there and we're interacting face to face, that's when those yucky grunts melt away. And when it becomes routine, when it becomes ritual, as opposed to something we have to do. So
yeah. So I have a strategy for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you know, with persnickety teens, when they're sequestered in their room, we're happy.
Yes, exactly.
I don't want to deal with them, but
Yeah.
that doesn't make for a relationship.
No.
So this strategy I call guerrilla love. We know what guerrilla warfare is. You sneak up on your enemy combatant when they don't see you, when you kill them. Guerrilla love is you go to your teenager, knock on their door. Always respect privacy. Knock on their door. They go, you'll get a grunt. Say, I'm coming in. Count to 3, because whatever they're doing, let them do what they're doing. I'm coming in. You open the door, and you walk right up to them before they can object, before they say no, before they know what's hitting them. And again, they're expecting this negative activation. What am I in trouble for again? But you walk up to them, and again, you grab their head, give them a kiss on the top of the head, and say, I just needed to let you know I love you. And hightail it out. Don't stay. Don't linger. It creates, in jargon, a cognitive dissonance for the child. I thought my parent hated me. What the heck is this? And they have to resolve that. They have to resolve the cognitive dissonance. They have to put these two things together. And the only way they can resolve that my parent came in and kissed me, one of two ways. Either my parent has lost their mind or they love me.
Yeah.
They're going to find in favor of loving me. And so, again, we do this several times in a week, not every day. Salt it, a little bit here, a little bit there. And then one day, rather than the guerrilla love, you just shout out, "Sweetheart, can you give me a hand for a second in the kitchen?" Not come to dinner. Not, "Why don't you turn that stuff up?" It's, "Sweetheart, can you give me a hand?" Like a turtle sticking its head out from the shell. They're going to appear. And when they appear in the kitchen, you say, "Look, my hands were full. Do you mind just getting me the whatever from the fridge?" And you're actually creating the conditions to have them join you in making the meal. And it can be just that one ingredient. You look at them, "You know what? That was really helpful. Thank you. You don't need to stay. I'll call you when dinner's ready." And they're going to be like, "You called me down for this?" "Yeah, and I'm appreciative." So we're moving away from negative activation. We're making requests instead of demands. We're showing respect for the child, the kind of respect that we keep saying, "Why aren't they showing us respect?" Okay? This is how, and this is important for all of our parents. This is how we rekindle the relationship. No relationship, no influence. Okay? And we have to think in terms of how do we influence, not how do we control.
Yes.
And that's a shift in thinking for many parents, particularly when relationships are strained. They're thinking of, how do I get back in control? And I'm trying to help them rekindle the relationship through which then they may have influence.
Very
This
cool.
is where I come from.
Very, very cool. So we could talk to you all day, and maybe we will talk again. And for today, the last question that we have for you is, our podcast is called the Real Life Parenting Podcast. And so we love to ask our guests who are parents if they can share one little tool that they use in their real life that has been very useful in their families. I know you're a parent and a grandparent. I thought you might have a little tip to share.
Yeah, so, our son, he's 35 years of age. He's married to a lovely woman. They have their own son or grandson who's 22 and a half months. And so I'm going to give a grandparenting tip.
Super.
Many grandparents wonder, how do I get to see my grandkids? Or, my children, they're the gatekeeper to the grandkids, and we don't always see them. And so I say to the grandparents, the quickest way to see your grandkids is by listening to the parents. We want our kid in bed at this time. We want our kid fed this and that. We want the diaper changed this way, not that way. Would it kill you to do it the way the parents want you to do it? Right? When you respect them and the fact that this is their child, not yours, then you open the door to the relationship. So respect your kids now as parents. They don't need to do it as we did it. Look, I'm assuming we're not talking abuse and, no one's hanging from the ceiling and whatnot. But if we can do that, then our children will bring the grandkids to us because they trust us. This is how we be good grandparents.
Oh, I love that tip. And you said they trust us. And if you don't mind, I'd like to add, and you're not judging them.
No.
So
my kids have a parenting expert. I could be up in their face. I've got nothing to say. You want to know something? Ask me a question. We'll share a question. Up to you what you want to do with it.
That's great. Gary, it's been great hearing your thoughts today. Thank you for sharing all these really just so practical but so effective little tips and strategies. It's really wonderful. If our listeners want to find or get more information from you or hear more about you, where should they go?
So follow me on Facebook at Gary Dierenfeld Social Worker. A day doesn't go by where I'm not posting something about parenting, relationships, social policy, politics. These things affect parenting and family life.
Yeah.
So follow me there. You'll get a lot there. Or go to my website, yoursocialworker.com.
Gary, thanks again.
Get in touch with you.
Oh, they can follow us on Facebook at Parenting Power and Instagram at Parenting Power, Twitter at Parenting Power, or come to our website, parentingpower.ca.
Perfect. Thanks for having me on, folks.
It was just great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary.